We're going to find out the real secret to the success of the Pateys on this Taking Off podcast. Hello and welcome to the Taking Off podcast. We are going to go into the archives for this one. So the very first time that Christy and I met Mike and Mark Patey, we also had the incredible pleasure to meet their wives, Chandra and Susie. And we decided to do an In the Hangar episode featuring the two wives and to really find out what's going on behind the scenes at the Pateys. This ended up being one of my favorite episodes ever. We're going to bring it here to you for the podcast. So here you go.
We came across the Patey pilots. Well, the ones with hair. Today in the hangar.
Hello and welcome to In the Hangar. We are at Stearman Field for the ACCA, so we've got a runway right out there, and you're going to hear a lot of airplanes. And I'm Dan Milliken.
I'm Christy Wong. And today's episode is sponsored by Wingfield Aviation
And Flying Eyes Optics. We both love Wingfield and Flying Eyes. They make this stuff happen, and we love their products.
Well, we promised the people Patey pilots.
With hair.
With hair, and
right.
we're going to meet them.
All right, here are the Patey pilots with hair. We have Chandra and we have Susie. Guys, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, now you guys aren't twins.
No.
Much easier to differentiate, by the way. Thank you for that.
All right, so who's married to who?
I am married to Mike.
And I am married to Mark.
Okay. So now that we've got that settled, and we aren't going to get them crossed up anymore, right? Okay,
not at all.
good.
I won't, so.
Okay. So first of all, I just want to point out, you guys are both pilots.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about your certifications and ratings?
I have my private pilot, and I have recently passed my instrument written test.
Awesome.
I just need to get those hours logged in my logbook and actually fly them too, and just get it done.
How long have you been flying?
I've had my license since 2004.
Oh, wow,
Awesome.
16 years.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, I've got about 20 hours till I hit the 1,000-hour mark.
Wow.
But in the meantime, both Chandra and I have raised kids. So
Yeah.
we've done all of our flight training, and we're not career pilots, but all of our piloting as we're raising our families.
That's incredible. And what about you, Chandra?
I got licensed in 2003. I have a private pilot license and am tailwheel endorsed. I fly a Carbon Cub,
Oh,
which I
awesome.
very much enjoy. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. And
you.
what kind of planes do you fly?
I've flown a Zenith 801, a Cessna 177, and yeah, Lockheed is awesome. And I currently fly a Cirrus SR-22.
So that was you flying the Cirrus in
Yes.
yesterday. See, that's amazing.
You flew in all the Pateys.
Yes, I did.
You are the Patey pilot.
Today.
Today,
Yes.
yeah, exactly. Okay, great. So I want to know, how did you guys meet Mark and Mike?
My story is kind of funny. So I was, 18? I just graduated high school. Mike and I are the same age. Anyway,
5 years ago?
yeah, about that.
There you go.
So we were both cruising with our friends, he in one car and me in another. We'd never met, but he pulled up alongside of me in my car and he motioned to roll down my window. And so I did. And he said, hey, let's see, what was that? Oh, he said, hey, do you have a boyfriend? And I kind of laughed and I said, no. And he goes, well, do you want one?
Oh my gosh, that is like the most Mike thing to
said-
say.
He said, pull over, I want to talk to you about it. So I thought he was cute and I pulled over and we talked and ended up going out on a date and it went from there.
That sounds very Mike. Okay.
Yeah, that's a Mike
And
thing.
what about you and Mark?
I was with my boyfriend, and he was with his girlfriend, and we met at a mutual friend's house. And after that, we found each other at the mall, and that was that.
You ditched each other's?
We ditched the others, and we've been married 26 years.
Oh, when you know, you know.
Yeah.
26 years and how long?
27. Almost 28.
Yeah.
Wow.
What are the challenges in dating a twin?
Well, they were married before us, and so there was none.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I was like, they never tried to do the switcheroo.
No,
on
but
you.
we get that
Okay.
question a lot.
I'm sure.
The only time that I've had an issue is when one of them, they used to own a retail store. And so when Mike would answer the phone and he'd say, hello, and I'd be like, I don't know if that's Mike or if it's Mark. And so I'd have to start a conversation and go, how's the day going? And then when he would communicate more, I'd be like, oh, cool, awesome. Can I talk to Mark?
So could you tell because of the tone of the voice or just because of what the content of what they were saying?
The tone of the voice after the hello.
Right, because hello is not enough.
Right.
Okay.
But one thing that is kind of funny between the two of them is they are kind of interchangeable with our kids. Growing up,
nice.
our kids would always go to one or the other. They, you know.
Oh, that's funny.
They'd go grab a leg and then look up, oh, you're not my dad.
Yeah.
Oh.
But it still worked.
So, okay, what are the challenges of being married to a Patey just because of their celebrity
The
status?
Mike and Mark show.
Yeah.
I don't know that it's a challenge.
No, it's not a challenge. I actually really appreciate, you know, what I get out of it and what I learn from my husband. I enjoy helping him in the shop sometimes, and you know, I love it when he comes and flies with me. And I always tell him, okay, I want you to critique every single thing I'm doing, and you know, he's great that way too. So I actually appreciate his talents and abilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ditto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you became pilots, 2003, 2004, was it something you kind of always wanted to do, or was it more like you got dragged into it and then learned to love it, or do you just love aviation? Where are you guys at on that?
Well, for me, Mike had gotten his license, and we were flying in our, let's see, we had a P210 at the time, and we had our 4 little kids in the back. I know, it's such a
I
great
fly a
airplane.
210.
Oh,
It's right there. Yeah.
very nice.
It's not a P though, it's a T.
Okay. Hey, just as good, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, we had our 4 little kids in the back, and we were eating snacks and chatting, and I had some jerky, and I handed a piece to him, and I said, he took it and he said, "What would you do if I choked on this?" And I just kind of went, well, I don't know. I don't know what we would do. And what went on in my head was, I better learn how to land this thing. So I went to our friend who was a neighbor of Mark and Susie's at the time, and he is actually the one that trained all of us. And I asked him to help me to learn how to land the plane, and I would do this for Mike's birthday because it was coming up, and
cool.
he's impossible to buy for. So
Yeah, usually he
what do
just
you
builds
buy for a
something.
present for the guy who has Draco?
Yeah.
everything.
Or
So
who build anything he
yeah.
Or builds anything?
Yeah.
Wants, right.
So I asked him, I said, will you teach me how to land the plane? And he said, well, that's kind of the hardest part. Why don't you learn how to do everything else too? And from then on, I started flying and just developed a love for it that I didn't think that I would really have. And yeah, so it was kind of fun.
You landed on for his birthday?
Yes. So I had soloed before, but he had no idea that I was taking lessons. I
That
was
is really
totally
cool.
lying to him all the time, telling him I was at
He thought you were
PTA
having an
meetings.
affair or something.
No, so he thought, you know, I would get the babysitter over. Everybody knew that it was a secret, and they were covering for me right and left, and I was down at the airport flying. And actually, there was one time where I was holding short of the runway, and he was doing his IFR training, and we always knew when, you know, whenever he was around flying,
You couldn't work the
I didn't work the radio. So we had a code going on from the people in the office. They would call Sly Fox code red, because they called me Sly Fox. They couldn't say my name. Sly Fox code red. And I knew that was when my husband was flying around and I couldn't talk on the radio.
Sly Fox.
That is
So-
really cool.
But yeah, so his birthday came. We got him down to the airport. You know, my dad kind of got him down there. He thought maybe I had something really cool planned for him, an F-16 flight or something amazing. And he gets down there and they're standing there waiting. And I came in and he kind of looked off in the distance and he's like, wow, hey, that's our 172. And I taxied over and he still didn't register. And he was standing there kind of looking, and I got out and he about dropped to his knees on the ground. And it was happy birthday.
That is a really cool story. That is awesome.
That is awesome.
All right. So, Susie, how about you?
No, actually, I used to take my boyfriend down to the airport. There's a road that goes around the perimeter of the airport, and we'd go on the approach end and make out while the airplanes land.
Susie and her boyfriend.
But I didn't feel pressured into it. It was one of those like, oh, if you can do it, I can do it. Why not?
Yep.
And so you went and got yours.
Yeah, so after they did it, and I had no idea, obviously, we had the same flight instructor. I had no idea she was
We were
flying
just
with them, too.
lying up in there. No
And
kidding.
our flight instructor, his name's Tom. He's so awesome. He never once in all of my flight training, because we overlapped, he never once said, oh, I got to go fly with Chandra, or Chandra did this, or nothing ever. He was so good.
It was awesome. And there were 5 of us training. So Mike and Mark were working on their IFR rating, and we were working on our private. And my mom was as well. And we were all using this 172.
I'm surprised we didn't have more run-ins of each other at the airport.
I know. Well, Tom was really good at scheduling. I have to give him
Yeah.
props there.
That is awesome. So now with all you guys being pilots, I want to ask the question, the scariest moment that you've ever had, whether you've been the pilot, passenger, or even hearing Mark and Mike.
Well, Mark and I decided one time, about 10 years ago, to fly to Mexico with our kids. At the time I had the Zenith 801, and it's a 4-place. So I was piloting me and 3 of our 4 sons, and Mark had an RV6A at the time, and he had 1 child with him. And actually, my heart's racing now because
Oh, wow.
we're on our way back from Baja, Mexico, and landed in, I think it was Bullhead City, Arizona, for fuel. Right before dusk, we take back off. We live just south of Salt Lake, and we're flying just west of the Grand Canyon airspace. And Vegas is off to the more west, and St. George is just beyond the next ridge of mountains, but it's far enough away that once the sun's down, it's black. And it's a VFR night, but it's considered IMC or VMC. It's dark. And I got spatial disorientation, and if you've never had it, I tell you, it is real, and it scares the crap out of you.
Wow.
What'd you do?
My brain, I was convinced that the instruments were turning to the right, and I was literally in a roll to the right, fighting myself to put it straight and level. And Mark kept saying, "You're diving, you're going down," like push it to the
kept telling you
left.
on the radio.
Yeah, on the radio. He's in the plane behind me, and he could see my lights going down to the right. And he's like, "You got to push it to the left. You got to push it to the left." I'm like, "I am," but my brain's fighting myself, and I nearly took us down, me and 3 kids, down to the ground. And he just kept saying, push your throttle, full mixture. Let's just get the plane happy. And that there was nothing wrong with the plane, but just so that if there was anything, that we had our bases covered. And he's just like, just climb, just get a positive rate of climb and go on this heading. And after about 5 minutes, we could start to see the horizon of the lights of St. George, Utah, which is southern Utah. And they just came into view, and it's like, okay, I got this. And
Wow.
when there is no horizon, it's difficult.
Wow.
So
That's incredible.
After we landed back at home, we actually landed in Cedar City, which is just beyond, just so that I could relax and calm down because we had lights underneath. But when we landed back in Spanish Fork, we got the GPS and was looking at my tracks, and I had done 3 or 4 complete circles, not knowing it, and descending at the same time. So it was one of those close calls that
Wow.
I hope nobody ever has to experience. Go off my word, it scares the crap out of you.
Well, what would you say to somebody, how they could best handle that situation if it happened to them?
Well, thankfully I had Mark sitting behind me in his airplane saying, hey, you got to do this, you got to do this. But at the time, not realizing that I'm fighting myself, I don't know that there is other than trust your instruments.
Trust your instruments, not yourself.
Right, because when you have double instruments, like 2 AFDs, you can say, my horizon is good. I am good. They're not, both of them can't be wrong.
Right.
Well, I haven't had any situations, such as that where myself piloting that, I had that happen. But clearly, I mean, everybody heard it was all over the place.
Tell us about that.
I was in the plane with Mike, in Draco with Mike when we went off the runway in Reno. And well, at no point did I think I was going to die, when we were in it. I just, 1 second we're barely lifting off the runway. And the next, my brain is like, well, we're going for a ride here. And, it just kind of went off the side of the runway. And, I looked over and your brain speeds up to the point that everything appears to be going in slow motion. And it's funny because I watched the video afterwards and it was that fast, but it felt while I was, in it, it felt like it was such a long situation, but I just remember sitting there and I look over at Mike and he is just busy doing everything he can to keep the plane from completely looping or anything like that. And, he did a really good job just keeping it going straight. As straight as he could once we went off the runway. And anyway, we came to a rest and the wing was bent and I looked over and, this close to my face is fuel just dumping out of the window,
Wow.
Outside the window. And this window is broken, everything. And I kind of took stock of what's going on with my body. And I wasn't, I'm like, I'm not bleeding. Everything's okay. Troy, our friend, was in the back and he's okay. And he is just yelling, get out, get out, get out. Yeah, Troy was yelling, get out, get out, get out. And I went to grab my seat belt and there was so much pressure on the seat belt that, because I'd strapped in so tight that it wouldn't release. And I just sucked in as hard as I could and unlatched it. And all of us crawled out, it was, stickers and dirt. And it's just kind of a strange, like out of body experience almost where, I'm expecting to go fly. And now all of a sudden I'm crawling through the dirt to get out of, the airplane. And it was just kind of a strange thing, but I wasn't shaken. I wasn't, I just kind of was like, okay, here we are. And it was kind of weird. It was just, like I said, just kind of your body goes into survival mode and you don't panic and you just are kind of like, well, there it is, Yeah. So the only injury or casualty of the crash was a broken fingernail. And it was real bad. It's almost healed.
Okay.
We're almost a year out and it's all good. But anyway, but I can say this, the lasting effects of that for me has been wind. And that's been something that I've kind of struggled with, to be honest.
Wind?
Yes, wind. So whenever I go out to fly, if it's somewhat windy, I get a little amped up and I have to relax.
Yeah.
And so that's, honestly, I think when you go through situations like that, there's a little bit of PTSD that hangs on and, you got to respect Mother Nature. There is nothing that you can do about being rocked by it. It just is, and you can't control it. So
Yeah. You just got to get back on that horse.
you just got to get back on the horse and make it happen. So I'm doing the best I can with that. So
Yeah. That's awesome.
I've got one more question.
Yeah.
So with the Mike and Mark show, it's quite a big deal. You guys go to air shows, you go to Osh, you go to all these different places. What's it like? Kind of like, is it hard to kind of be in their shadow? Is it fun? With them being like rock stars.
I think it's fun to be a cheerleader. I wasn't a cheerleader in high school. I actually played basketball, but I'm short for basketball too.
I was going to say, you're not a giant.
Anyway, I think it's fun to be their biggest cheerleaders and not just on the sideline, like with pom-poms or anything like that, but to like help organize and just say, hey, you got someone over here that wants to talk to you, and to hear the rundown afterwards and go, that's so cool.
You are very supportive. I saw you both in action yesterday after you landed, and people were just flocking. And you were
To the Mike and Mark show.
to Mike and Mark, and you were just so supportive. Like it's like you have it down. Like, okay, stay in the vicinity of, step in when you need to. I mean, we had great conversations last night. It was wonderful, but I got to see that support in action, and that was really, really great.
Well, and I mean, we both love people. I love
Right.
hearing people's stories, and people love to share their stories with Mike and Mark, and you know, their backgrounds and things. And it's cool. And that's one thing that I love about this industry, is that everybody's got some kind of a story that brought them here, and it's always fun to hear. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that part.
One thing I want to bring up before we go is, it seems to me that the videos that you are in typically get more views than when it's just them by themselves. How does that make you feel?
Well, that's nice. I mean, it's a nice compliment if people want to see us. That's awesome.
Awesome.
Well, okay. Well, then, so here's the test. We have a Mike and Mark episode of this where we talked to them previously, and we have this show. So let's make sure we watch this, get the views up, and we can prove to them the Mike and Mark show that there's an even better
That's
show.
right. This is for science.
Oh, man.
Yeah, science. It's for science.
That is a tall order, though. I'm telling you what.
Well, thank you guys so much for watching today. If you like what you see, subscribe and share. We'll see you next time.
In the hangar.